Look, growing up in Melbourne in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of diversity, at least in my neighbourhood. I had plenty of nice girlfriends, but unlike Americans, we lived with our parents throughout uni, and in many cases, until we had enough money for a home of our own. So I was sheltered and had a pretty limited worldview. But I knew there was something else out there, and I was determined to find it. I realised this sounds horrible, but I'd always been very intrigued by Asian women. I found them exotic, beautiful, and delicate in ways that Anglo-Aussie women weren't. But supply was low at that time in Melbourne. At 25, I worked for HP, and a role came up in Korea. So I packed up what little I owned and chucked the rest in mum and dad's garage, and away I went. Talk about a culture shock. I've always been a respectful, reverent person. I've always deferred to my manager. But the Eastern way of doing business was completely different than what I was used to. But as they say, adapt or die, sink or swim. The most shocking aspect of business in Korea is how many deals and decisions are actually done outside the office. I'd put in a full day of work in the office and then be expected to entertain clients until the wee hours almost every night. The most important lesson you learn straight away in Asia is you don't go home until the boss goes home. If the boss stays in the office until 10 p.m. on the night of your friend's birthday, tough luck, you're staying in the office. And if you're taking out clients and the boss stays with the clients until 2 a.m, you're there too. And you're back at your desk by 9 a.m. the next morning, plugging away. For the entire 3 years that I was in Korea, I was in a virtual wonderland. Beautiful women at every turn. I dated a few people whilst abroad, all of whom were completely comfortable with the long, ridiculous hours I was working at the time. They were doing the same. With many of them, the attraction was there, but because I had just limited time with them, I never felt I could really connect with them in any meaningful sort of way. There was no real dating in Korea, at least at that time anyway. Most young professionals were so focused on getting ahead and/or, trying to keep in step with the work-related socializing that it was impossible to fit anyone into your life. So I opted to go home. I was limited by my lack of advanced Korean language, and if I wanted to move up any further up the corporate ladder, I'd need to go where I could communicate fully. I went home to Melbourne. I felt like a bit of a failure when I got home. I didn't find the Asian goddess of my dreams. I was unable to keep up with the Korean way of life. So I came home and just dug into my job in Oz. We call it head down, bum up in Australia. I barely even went out for almost a year, but it paid off. I was one of the top performers. I made President's Club, people who hit the targets in their company. With this distinction came all expenses paid trip to Thailand for every President's Club recipient across the globe. Everyone is flying in, and it's an amazing resort, and there's many fun events and lots of drinking. The first day I arrived, I was sitting in the hotel lobby just having a beer, congregating with the other PC winners. I looked up, and coming down the escalator was this gorgeous woman. She was in a white halter dress. I'll never forget. Couldn't take my eyes off her. Imagine my shock when she started walking towards my group. She was part of the HP team from Sydney. She was Vietnamese, and after being successful in the Vietnam territory, she transferred to Australia while I was in Korea. Her name was Tran. We spent the rest of the week together on the trip. It was easy. We just naturally had so much fun together. Gourmet dinners, sunset cruises on catamarans, dancing until dawn with the team and Tran by my side. People always say, when you're not looking for it, it will come to you. We're certainly proof of that. And as soon as we met, things just naturally sort of fell into place. There was no struggle. Yes, after we'd been dating a few months, we decided that she would move to Melbourne. And because we were a couple, one of us had to leave the business. But even that decision was easy. I went to work for one of my customers and Tran stayed with HP. It's amazing how life can be when you go with the current and stop trying to swim against it. For me, it was time to come back home to Australia. But when I did, when I stopped trying so hard for what I wanted came to me. It's a lesson I've taken forward in other areas of my life. And though life hasn't always been easy, it's much less challenging if you go with the current.